Hi everyone, I'm Congressman Lloyd Smucker. My office is here to assist families of the 11th District in organizing tours of the U.S. Capitol, the White House, and other locations in Washington. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, that's not possible right now. And you know, being able to show constituents around this historic building, it's one of my favorite parts of being your representative. So today, I'm going to do just that. While I can't wait to have you all visit here in person once we open up, I figured it'd take some time to walk you around historic Capitol Hill. My office is located here in the Cannon House office building, right across the street from the Capitol. Cannon is one of 3 House office buildings, Longworth, Rayburn, and Cannon, all, by the way, named after previous speakers of the House. The Cannon House office building finished construction in 1908 and is currently the oldest of the 3 office buildings. Since it's the oldest, it's now also under some renovations to make it fit for modern building codes. Right down the hall from my office is the Cannon Rotunda. If you watch the news and see members on TV, you normally see columns behind them. Well, right here is where TV news cameras are set up to film members. While this rotunda is not as grand as the one in the Capitol building, it is a great piece of history that has been newly restored to its original design. Now, let's head to the Capitol. Each House office building is connected to the U.S. Capitol by underground tunnels. This allows representatives to get to the Capitol quickly when it's time for votes. If you look on the right of the tunnel as we walk towards the Capitol away from Cannon, you'll see artwork from high school students from all across the United States. Each year, Congress hosts the Congressional Art Competition. Each representative selects a winner from their district, and the artwork gets put on display for a full year. And if you look behind me, this piece called Dog and Dino from Garden Spot High School. She's representing PA 11 here for this year. The Capitol Visitor Center was completed in 2008 to facilitate all the guests that normally come to visit the United States Capitol. Inside the Visitor Center, there's a plaster model of a 19.5-foot tall bronze statue that stands atop the Capitol Dome, which is known as the Statue of Freedom. In her left hand, she holds a laurel wreath and a U.S. shield, symbolizing peace and protection. And in her right hand, she carries a sword in a sheath, signifying strength. But I will explain more about the Capitol Dome later in the tour. Let's head towards the first floor of the Capitol building. This right here is the original exterior wall of the Capitol building. And if you look here, you can see where the Visitor Center attaches to the original building. The Senate vestibule is the oldest entrance to the Capitol building. When the Capitol first opened in November 1800, this is the entrance that was used. These columns were raised around 1807 to 1808 and have been a witness to history ever since. In 1814, during the War of 1812, the British invaded and burned the Capitol, and you can still see the burn marks. This is known as the old Supreme Court chamber. This room actually first served as the Senate chamber from 1800 to 1808 before the Senate moved upstairs to the second floor. The Supreme Court occupied this chamber from 1810 to 1860. Important cases in American history were decided here, like McCulloch versus Maryland, which defined the Constitution's implied powers, and Gibbons versus Ogden, which established the right of Congress to regulate commerce, and Dred Scott versus Sanford. Today, this room is mostly used for ceremonial purposes and to show visitors of the Capitol. Before the State of the Union, the 9 justices meet here in this room before heading to the House. The crypt is located on the first floor of the Capitol and sits directly below the famous rotunda. The 40 columns in this room help support the weight above it. Right here is the original center of the District of Columbia, and all the city's streets radiate from this very point. The House is located here on the south side, and the Senate is located on the north side. Below the star was meant to be the original location of President George Washington's resting place. However, his family opted to keep him buried at Mount Vernon, across the Potomac River in Virginia. You also notice that there are statues in here that represent the original 13 colonies. Throughout the Capitol, each of the 50 states get 2 statues to have on display. The statues on display are up for each state's legislature to determine, so each state gets to add its own personal touch to the Capitol building. One of Pennsylvania's statues is of John Peter Gabriel Muhlenberg, who served as a general for the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. He was elected a member of Congress and later a senator for Pennsylvania. Next to the first of Pennsylvania's 2 statues is a replica of the Magna Carta. It's one of the first examples of written rights for citizens, and the Magna Carta inspired important parts of our own Declaration of Independence. This replica was gifted to us by the United Kingdom as a token of friendship between our 2 countries during our nation's bicentennial in 1976. This is one of my favorite experiences in the building. Walking up these stairs, the rotunda just reveals itself right in front of you. If you look straight up here, you'll see the painting entitled The Apotheosis of George Washington. It depicts Washington ascending to heaven. My favorite part of the painting is what appears just opposite Washington. Our national motto, E Pluribus Unum, reminds us all that out of many, we are one. If you look towards the middle of the dome above, you'll see artwork that goes around the whole rotunda, known as the frieze. The figures, by the way, if you look closely, look like statues, but it really is all just paintings. It begins with Columbus landing in America and ends with the Wright brothers and the birth of aviation. It took 3 artists to complete and is a nice depiction of the growth of our nation. The paintings here on the main level of the rotunda tell the story of America's discovery leading up to independence. First painting I want to show you is of the Declaration of Independence being presented to the Second Continental Congress. This painting shows General Washington resigning his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. This action established civilian rule of the Army. This grand room was used during what we know as the golden era of the Senate, from 1810 to 1859, before the current Senate chamber was built. There are 64 desks representing the 32 states that were in the Union at that time. From 1860 to 1935, it was used as the Supreme Court chamber until the court finally moved to its current location today, right across the street to the east. Why is it called the Golden Era? Senators Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, and John Calhoun led monumental debates about slavery leading up to the Civil War. The Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 1850, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act were just a few of the measures taken up in this chamber to keep our nation together. Today, the chamber is used for ceremonial swearing in of senators by the Vice President. Let's head back through the rotunda towards the House side. One of my favorite statues in the Capitol is this one of President Reagan. Here you can see pieces of the Berlin Wall just below President Reagan. This is, of course, for his famous speech. The center of the rotunda is where certain people can lie in state or lie in honor. Government officials, including presidents, senators, representatives, and Supreme Court justices, have lain in state here. Other important cultural figures who have shaped our nation's history in some way can lie in honor as well. Now, let's head to the old House chamber referred to as Statuary Hall. This served as the chamber of the House of Representatives from 1807 and was reconstructed after the British destroyed it in 1814. It served as the House chamber until 1857, when the bigger chamber next door was completed. Many important events took place in Statuary Hall while it served as the House floor, and Presidents James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, and Millard Fillmore were inaugurated here. Here in Statuary Hall, if you look around, you'll see gold plaques on the floor. These represent the actual desk locations of House members who later became president. One of those plaques, by the way, belongs to our Lancaster native, James Buchanan, the 15th president. When he was a member of Congress, this is exactly where he sat. Another notable member of the House when this chamber was used is Abraham Lincoln. John Quincy Adams also sat here, and he's the only person to become president and then return to the House of Representatives to serve there. Pennsylvania's second statue here is Robert Fulton. He was born in Lancaster County in 1765. Fulton, of course, is famous for the first functioning steamboat in 1807. You can see here that he holds a model of that invention. One other interesting statue right above the entrance from the Rotunda is called the Car of History. It shows Clio, the Greek muse of history, writing in the Book of Time. It's meant to be a reminder to representatives that their actions are written in history. The current House chamber has been used since 1857. As the country expanded, so did the number of representatives, which now sits at a fixed number of 435 voting members. This chamber serves as the location for the State of the Union and other events like joint sessions of Congress. If you look up, there's an eagle on the ceiling surrounded by 50 stars. Above the gallery doors, there are 23 marble medallions of lawgivers throughout history, starting from Moses to Thomas Jefferson and George Mason. The medallion of Moses is the only one that is not a profile, and it looks directly down to the chamber and to the Speaker. It's here on the House floor that my colleagues and I, on both sides of the aisle, debate and vote on legislation. Members of the public can view sessions of the House in the gallery, and this is a tradition that dates back to the original chambers, and it's a reminder that this is the people's House and the people's government. Democrats primarily sit to the right of the Speaker, and Republicans sit on the left of the Speaker, but as I said, there are no assigned seats. Before we end the tour, I want to tell you some facts about the dome of the Capitol. The dome of the U.S. Capitol is a symbol for democracy, but it did not always look as it does now. The original dome was copper and wooden and looked similar to what the Library of Congress looks like today, right across the street to south of the Supreme Court building. The Capitol and the country grew at a rapid pace, and the original building soon became too small. So construction of the current dome began in 1856. During the Civil War, it was important to President Lincoln that the nation see construction of the Capitol dome continue. The Statue of Freedom, the finishing touch on the new dome, was put in place on December 2nd, 1863, only months after the Battle of Gettysburg. Today, it stands as a global symbol of freedom and democracy. Thank you so much for joining me on this virtual tour. Please visit my website, smucker.house.gov, to write to me and let me know what you think.